A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I welcome you all tonight on the 13th session of the series of 14 lectures on knowing Masumeen, and today's session is on Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam. Before we start discussing the life and the teachings of Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, I would like to present you something which is very important to understand, that how these can you see my screen? Again, just give me a minute. I hope you all can see my screen now. While I'm presenting, I won't be able to read chat. So please raise your hand if you have any question, and I'm gonna unmute you and you can ask question. So tonight we are discussing 11th Imam, Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam. I hope you can all see the screen. So Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, his name is Hasan and title Al-Askari, and his kunyat is Abu Muhammad ibn Raza. We all need to know this, that Imam Raza alayhi salam, who is the 8th Imam, his footprints in the Muslim world was so strong that 3 Imam that came after him, Imam Muhammad Taqi alayhi salam, Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salam, and Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, people were very keen to call them Ibn Raza and Ya Rasulullah, Ibn Rasulullah as well. But Ibn Raza is one of the kunyat. Of course, his father was Imam Ali ibn al-Hadi al-Naqi alayhi salam. Mother's name, Hudais, Susan, and Salil. 3 names have been described in different books. And the book that you're gonna follow, the workbook, it's called Salil. He was born on 8th of Rabiul Thani, 232, 846 Iswi. Martyrdom 8th Rabiul Awwal and 874 after being poisoned by Abbasi Khalifa al-Mu'tamid. His age was only 20 years and the period of Imama was 6 years, and he is buried in Samra, Iraq. It's called Kazman these days. His titles. So he had very high and noble qualities, and the Muslims used to call him Al-Khalis. Al-Khalis means the pure. Al-Hadi, the guide. Al-Askari, of the military, because he was living in the city of Samara, which was actually a military camp, and Turkish army used to live there. Al-Zaki, pure, righteous. Al-Khas, peculiar, that Allah has distinguished him with virtues and with responding to his supplications. Another one is Al-Samit, means silent. He used to be very silent since his childhood, and whenever he spoke just wisdom, knowledge, and the mention of Allah. Al-Cyrus, that he was a lamp lighting the way and guiding the deviants to rightness. Al-Taqi, pious. The family tree, we will spend a bit of time here because it's a very important family tree. So his father was Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salam, and his mother was Bibi Salil, as I mentioned. He had 3 brothers, Muhammad, Hussein, and Jafar, and he had 1 sister named Alia. His wife was Bibi Narjis, and of course the son Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi al-Qaim alayhi salam. We will discuss about his 3 brothers, which tells us some of the characteristics of the challenges and the companions he was having. So Imam Hasan Askari al-Islam had 3 brothers, Muhammad, Hussein, and Jafar. So let's see about Muhammad first. He was called the Lion of Dujal. Dujal is the area. He was a powerful example of the principle taught by Imam al-Hadi. His father, he was wise, intelligent, had excellent morals, and was knowledgeable. He is buried in the city Balad in Iraq. Many people visit his shrine. He died very young. He died at the age of 20 when Imam al-Hadi was alive. And actually, his funeral prayer was the first major public appearance of Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam. The second brother, his name was Hussein, was a man of great knowledge and excellent morals. He was always with his brother Imam al-Askari. They were so close to each other that people used to call them al-Sibtain, like their two grandfathers, Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein, who were famous for this title at that time. So the Hussein and Imam Hasan Askari were very close to each other and were always together. They were called Sibtain. Now, third brother, it's it's a very contrasting situation here. So Jafar, he came to known later as Jafar al-Kazab, Jafar the liar. After Imam Hasan Askari was martyred, Jafar, it is said that um, Jafar claimed to be the next Imam. He denied that Imam Askari had a son and claimed to be the Imam only here. It didn't really work well, but still, some people say that he repented and his Toba was accepted, and he is also called Jafar al-Tawwab. But the history that I have read, it does not really talk very high about it, and he is mentioned as Jafar al-Kazab. So Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, when he was of 2 years old, he moved to Samara with his father, and he lived under the guidance of his father. And even when Imam was traveling, Imam Hasan Askari was always with him. Even though that he did not speak a lot during the travels and his public appearance, but it is widely believed that despite all the restriction, he was soon known for his brilliance and character and his knowledge. There is a interaction of Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam which is written in the history books, and it's about we don't know if it was Behlol or not. Some narration says that it was the famous Behlol, and some narration says it was someone else. The interaction of whatever Imam said is very important. There is a guy who saw in Samara that there were young boys that were playing with the toys, and except one boy who was standing amongst his peers, and there was tears in his eyes. So the onlooker immediately said, "Would you like me to buy you a toy to play with?" And the boy said, "We have not been created for play." The man was stunned, and he asked, "And what you have been created for?" The boy replied, "For knowledge and worship." Of course, the meaning is to spread knowledge among the people and worship the God. The man then asked, "Where did you get this from?" And the boy replied, "From the words of God, the Exalted. Did you suppose that we created you aimlessly and will not brought back to you?" said the boy. And the guy said, "What's wrong with you? You are a small innocent child." The boy dismissed the man's words, saying, "Leave me be. Indeed, I have seen my mother try to start a fire with big logs, but the fire does not start without using the small one first. I fear that I would be among the small logs of hellfire." This young boy from the story is reported to have been the 11th Imam Hasan Askari, son of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Imam was well known for his patience. He had Imam al-Hadi and Imam Hasan Askari faced many challenges during the Abbasid Caliphate, and he was very well known among the people that he is the most patient person. He always suppressed his anger and treated whoever wronged him with kindness and forgiveness. There was a famous philosopher at that time, Al-Kindi. The rural and locals had a very respect for Al-Kindi, and they consider him as a wise man, an intellectual and philosopher. So what Al-Kindi did, he started writing a book, and the name of the book, or the title of the book, was Mistakes in Quran. One of the student of Imam, he came to Imam and said that Al-Kindi is writing a book, and he has collected all the verses which apparently contradicts each other, and he is writing those all these ayats in one book named as Mistakes in Quran. Imam asked his student, can you debate with him? Can you speak to him and convince him not to write this book and correct him? And the student said, no, I can't win a debate with Al-Kindi. Then Imam said, okay, take one question from my side and ask Al-Kindi. Just ask him, uh, is it not possible that when you read a book, what you have understood is not necessarily what the author had intended to say? It's a very simple question, actually, but very deep. So the question asks Al-Kindi or any reader that is it necessary that whatever you read from the book and perceive the meaning, is it necessarily the intent of the writer of the book? So the student went to Al-Kindi and asked the same question. Al-Kindi immediately said, who are you? And he said that he told him his name and said that I'm asking this question. And Al-Kindi immediately said, you are incapable of thinking such questions. You need to tell me who told you this question. And then a student confessed that I had been to Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, and he asked me that to ask you. And Al-Kindi was immediately convinced. And he said that only he is the one who could have asked this question. And the result was that Al-Kindi, he lit up the fire and put the book in the fire, and the chapter was closed. Just imagine that how Imam, even in very difficult circumstances, having all these challenges, how they prevent the Islam from these things. Just imagine if the book had been written and is spread across the world, written by a Muslim, and um, writing about the mistakes in Quran. So Imam Hasan Askari al-Sam, even though he was confined in Al-Samara, people used to know him a lot and respect and regard him. He had seen at least 3 caliph from Bani Abbas, and most of the time he had been into the confinement. And when he was not in the confinement in the prison, he was being closely watched. So how his life was in Samara? If you see that since Imam was in prison, or when he was not in prison and he was living in his home in Samara, he was being closely watched. People were not really allowed to meet him freely, and Imam was not able to go anywhere and speak to the people on his own will. So um, Imam used to deliver the messages and the advices to the Mu'mineen or to the Shia by very limited interactions. Imam was told that in the Abbasi government about his presence in Samira, and as per narrated from one of his servant, Imam had to go to Darul Amara, the residence of the Amir, every Monday and Thursday to tell them to present that he is in Samara and he's not gone anywhere else. So one day, Imam was going to Darul Khilafa. We gathered in Alaskar. This is something that this is narrated by one of the Shia of his time. We gathered in Alaskar, the area that where Imam used to live, to visit him on the way. So Imam was going to Darul Khilafa or Darul Amara. So the Mu'mineen planned that we gonna be on the way and we will meet him on the way. But before we could do that, we received a letter with a message, a short message. No one should ever greet me or point to me because you are not safe. The situation was that if anybody was going closer to Imam, asking question and showing his love and respect to Imam, he was immediately punished later on. So Imam said that please do not be persecuted only because supporting me. Then the next thing Imam did, Imam appointed agents to communicate with Shias. So Imam had servants who used to work for Imam, and Imam used to contact people or Shias through his servants. Let me. Yes, Ame, can you ask question, please? I saw you raised hand.
You sent a message.
Sorry, can you speak a bit louder?
You sent a message to them saying that no one should ever greet or point to me because you are not safe.
Yeah, so if you look into the question itself, the question was that there was a plan and they will point out and record the people who are trying to interact with Imam during that particular day. Imam said that please do not speak to me or contact to me on that particular travel. But of course, afterwards, there were people who contacted Imam and Imam delivered messages as well. The next thing is, so we were talking about the agent. I see that someone has raised hand. Kayan.
Where's Sayyid Mustajab, our real teacher? Because I came right now. I came late.
Okay. So Mustajab has traveled overseas for at least 6 weeks. So I'm going to conduct this session and the next session. You can send me your question or you can ask here and I'm going to respond to you. You will also have the recording of the session, Kayan. So I was unable to see the number of participants and the participants unless I switch to it. So if you have joined late, the recording of the session will be available like after 2 hours on the group, YouTube, and on the Facebook Al Sirat. Okay, so one of the person who Imam used to communicate to Shias with was Akit. He was the special servant of Imam who was raised by Imam and delivered many of his letters to Shia. Yes, MA. You have raised hand. You have a question? Okay, no question. Cool. The next one, another agent was Gharib Abul Adyan, who was another servant of Imam and used to deliver messages and letters to some of the Shia. However, Usman bin Said was a particular person in some sources who was called Bab, representative, and the connection with Imam. So the door to connect with Imam. He is very famous because Usman bin Said became the first deputy of Imam Mehdi during minor occultation. Now, Imam had seen through 3 periods of the Basis Caliph. So I'm going to be very quick here until the end, and then there is a special slide that I prepared for you. So uprising and revolts. At that time, in those 6 years, when there were 3 different Abbasi caliphs, the situation was that there were Arabs, there were Turkish, and there were Africans. So Turkish had gained a lot of power in the government, and so as the Africans in Egypt and the surrounding areas. So there were at least 4 uprisings and revolts that we are aware of through the history books. The first one was uprising of Ali bin Zaid and Isa bin Jafar. They were both Alawis and descendant of Imam Hasan al-Mujtaba. So Alawis means that they are descendant of the progeny of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They made an uprising in Kufa. Al-Mutaz sent a great army led by Said bin Saleh, known as Hajib, who suppressed them. So this revolt was unsuccessful. The uprising of Ali bin Zaid bin Hussein, he was among descendant of Imam Hussein al-Islam and made an uprising in Kufa at the time of Muhtadi. So it's the last of the 3 caliphs. Mikhail went to fight with him with the great army, but he was defeated. When Al-Mu'tamid al-Abbasi seized the power, he sent Kejur Turkey towards Ali bin Zaid, who was killed in 870 or 871 after some chase and run. The third uprising was Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Abdullah. He made an uprising in Egypt and at the time of Mu'tamid and claimed the caliphate. Ahmad bin Tulun, he went to fight with him and he killed him. The uprising of Sabi al-Zanj, Ali bin Muhammad Abdul Qais made an uprising at the time of Mutabid. Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam clearly stated that Sabi Zanj was not from Ahl Bayt, so he was not Alawi. Now, just imagine that Imam is confined either in prison or at his house, and he had limited interaction with the people, but still, Imam had done a lot of things to tell people about his imama and prove his imama to the wider audience. So, first one that is available in the history books, Imam Hasan Askari and the miracle of praying for rain. There was in Samara there was drought and there was no rain for months, and there was a shortage of the cultivation and the eatables. So what they did, Muslims went out of the Samara in a ground and they pray for 3 years, but 3 months, sorry, 3 days, and there was no rain. The fourth day, there was written as a Christian priest. He came and at the same place when all the Muslims were there, and he raised his hand towards sky and he prayed, and immediately it started rain. So the belief of the basic Muslims were shattered that how it can happen that we as Muslims we are asking God for the rain and it's not happening, but a Christian priest he did it. So the caliphate at that time he asked, please bring Abu Muhammad. So Imam Hasan was known as Abu Muhammad. Abu Muhammad, and when he came in, he said that Abu Muhammad, please save the religion of your grandfather. And Imam looked at the priest and he was raising his hand and praying for the rain. And Imam asked someone, please go and check his sleeve. So when he checked the sleeve, there was a bone that he's hiding under his within his sleeve. It was brought to Imam, and Imam said that it is the bone of a prophet, and it is the characteristic of a bone of a prophet that if you expose it to the under the sky, it will rain. I have a question. Somebody raised a hand. Okay, it's gone now. The second miracle that we come to know is Imam provide. There are many actually, but we're gonna talk about. Okay, yes, Kian.
Do we have a quiz?
Yes, we have a quiz. You can just wait up to the end, and there is a quiz. It's a different quiz today, but there is a quiz. Okay, the second one, Imam provided gold and silver to Abu Hashim for paying loans and buying winter clothes. So Imam had a companion named Abu Hashim. He was riding on a horse behind Imam Hasan Askari al-Islam, and he was thinking that I have a debt to pay, and I don't have the money to pay the loans, and I wish he was worried that how I'm gonna pay that. Then Imam he had asa in his hand, and he just on the ground he just made a square and asked Abu Hashim to just check what's there. And when Abu Hashim went there and he picked it, it was a piece of gold. Rabab has raised hand. Just give me a minute. Let me finish this, and then I'm gonna come to you. And Abu Hashim was very thankful, and they started traveling again. And after some time, Abu Hashim thought about that it's gonna be winter from next month, and I don't really have anything, any money to buy the winter clothes. Imam did the same again, and this time it was a piece of silver. Abu Hashim picked it and thanked Imam. When he paid his debt, and when he went to buy the winter cloth, it was the enough money to buy the winter cloth. Yes, please, Rabab, you have a question?
What are loans?
Sorry,
What are loans?
what are lines?
What are loans?
I don't know, your voice is cutting. I can't. Can you type it, Rabab, in the chat
Okay.
box? Okay, and I will have a look and answer you. Thank you. Another of his miracle is that Abu Hashim said that I entered Abu Muhammad's place, Imam Hasan's place. He was writing a letter at the time. He was writing a letter, and then the time of the first prayer. So the time of the namaz came, and he started. He stood up and started praying. But what happened? The pen passed on the rest of the paper by itself, and right until the end. Therefore, I prostrated to him with reverence, and when he finished praying, he held the pen in his hand and he started writing again. Another of miracle was stated once when Imam Hasan Askari was a young child. It's very interesting. When Imam Hasan Askari was a young child, he fell into a well near his house, water well. His father Imam Naki was praying and did not even notice the commotion around him of the ladies crying. When he finished praying and asked what had happened, he was told. He went towards the well, the water rose with his miracle, and all saw 11th Imam Hasan Islam sitting peacefully on top of the water and he was playing. So this is one of another miracle. What are loans? Rabab asked, what are loans? These are the money that you borrow from your friends and the people you know. This is called loan. And then of course, once you have the money, then you return it back. Next, so I already talked about it that Abbasi rulers were particularly harsh on Imam Hasan Askari Islam because they had heard that the Shia believed that he will have a son named Imam. He will have son named Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. So it was a very difficult era and challenging circumstances where Imam had to protect his son Imam Mahdi, and he also had to communicate to the people to tell them that I will have a son, or I have a son, and he will be the next Imam. Yes, Rabab? You had a question? No, okay. Let's move on. So Imam was in his 6 years of Imama. On and off, he was in prison or in the confinement. And it was during that time that Imam Mehdi was born on the 5th of Shaban. So Imam Hasan al-Islam had one son. And of course, he's Imam al-Mahdi, and he was born on 15th of Shaban. His birth was kept a secret. Only a few very close companions of Imam Hasan al-Islam were informed. Now, I have prepared this slide. If you look into this, and I can send it to you through chat as well later on, or on the Facebook. So this is the chart that talks about all the Imam until Imam Mehdi alayhi salam, their titles, their kunya, day of birth, places, and everything. And the next one is very interesting and important. From the beginning of the series, you must have heard about from the Imam Ali alayhi salam and then Imam Hasan, Imam Hussein. So in their respective era, who was actually the opponent force of these Imams? So I have collected these details. So if you see on the left-hand side in the orange, you will see Abbasi dynasty. And on top of it, there was Banu Umayyah dynasty. So because I just wanted to present it from Imam Musa Kazim, and you will know that, so Caliph, reign, Imamat years, and Imamat duration. So if you see, just let's say let's start with Imam Musa Kazim. So Imam Musa Kazim, Imamat years was from 765 to 799, which is around 35 years. Now see how many caliphs he had gone through. So Al-Mansur, Al-Mehdi Billah, Al-Hadi, Harun al-Rashid. And so these among these 35 years, there were at least 1, 2, 3, 4 caliphs. The same with Imam Raza, around 3 caliphs. And look at Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam. He had around 3 caliphs. So Mutaz Billah, Al-Muhtadi Billah, and Al-Mutamid al-Allah. So these were the caliphs during Imam era. Imam Hasan al-Askari Islam, as if you can recall, I just told you about his nominated people or the agents to communicate with the Shias. So Imam actually was preparing for the occultation of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. And because in minor occultation, there were at least 4 agents from Imam Zamana who used to communicate with Shias at that time. So Imam wrote a letter to Hussein bin Baboya Qummi. He is the father of Sheikh Saduq alayhi rahmah. He said, be patient because our Shias will continue suffering until the appearance of my son, whose coming was told by the messenger of Allah that he will fill the earth with justice and fairness, and after it is filled with injustice and tyranny. So Imam started writing to his companions that my son will be the next Imam. So this continued until the last ruler, which is Muhtadi. He poisoned Imam, and Imam got martyrdom because of the poison. And at that time, Imam Mehdi was around 5 years of age. So what happens that Imam was very well known to the people, and noblemen, Alawis, and influential people, and of course the Caliph and all the people in the Samra, they came to participate in the funeral prayers of Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam. And Imam Hasan alayhi salam's son, brother, Jafar al-Kazab, he came in front and he wanted to lead the funeral prayer. At that time, Imam Mehdi appeared. He was 5 years of age. And he said to his uncle, I am more deserving to pray over my father than you. When this happened, Imam started praying, and everybody followed him. After Imam al-Mahdi finished praying for his father, the people realized that he was and he will be the 12th Imam now. Imam al-Mahdi disappeared from the general public, and only righteous and trust people were in contact with him immediately after that. When the Abbasi Caliph came to know that there was Imam Mehdi, and he came and he offered the funeral prayer, they immediately raided the house of Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, but they could not find anyone there. So it was locked and sealed immediately afterwards. So they had no luck in finding Imam Mehdi alayhi salam. May Allah hasten his reappearance. The last two slides, Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam spent a lot of time in consolidating the fiqh, and also he did a lot of tafsir for the ayah. One of the famous ayah that he did the tafsir was ayah 32 of Surah Al-Fatir. And he said, ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا فمنهم ظالم لنفسه ومنهم مقتصد ومنهم سابق الخيرات بإذن الله ذلك هو الفضل الكبير. And the translation is, then we granted the book to those who have chosen from our servant. Some of them wrong themselves, and some follow a middle course, and some are foremost in good deeds by Allah's will. This is truly the greatest bounty. Imam explained, those who did not accept our imama refers to zalimun li nafsihi. Muqtasidun, Imam said, those who have marfat of imama, and sabiqul khairat, who foremost in good deeds by Allah will, it refers to the Imam himself. Some golden words from Imam alayhi salam. So he said, anger is the key to every evil. The best of your brother is he who forgets you wrong against him, and remember your kindness to him. The speech of Allah has preference over all speeches, just as he holds preference over his creation, and our speech has preference to the speech of people, just as our preference over them. Then he said, he who praises an undeserving one becomes as an accused person. Then he said, it is not from the politeness to show joy before a distressed person. Now, I will stop sharing. So this is the end of the presentation. And I said that today we will have a different type of quiz. So I understand that in last 12 lectures, because there was a lot of material to be presented, and we will continue doing so until the next session. But your participation is required in these. So these are not just click and tick and finish. We're gonna be discussing it together, and I'm gonna give mic to all of you to at least answer at least one of those. So I'm gonna stop this presentation here, and then I'm gonna unmute some of you and we can talk about it. Cool. So do you want me to put the question in the chat box? What's better? Okay. So give me a minute.